was thinking.
Never, Your Majesty, was greater me for thought than now.
That's what I was thinking. Well, what is it? More trouble?
What we might call the old trouble, Your Majesty.
It's what I was saying to the Queen last night. Uneasy lies the head that wears the crown, was how I put it.
A profound and original thought which may well go down to posterity.
You mean it may go down well with posterity? I hope so. Well, what is it?
It is in the matter of Her Royal Highness's wedding.
Oh, yes.
As Your Majesty is aware, young Prince Simon arrives today to seek Her Royal Highness's hand in marriage. He has been traveling in distant lands and, as I understand, has not...
You mean he hasn't heard anything?
It is a little difficult to put this tactfully, Your Majesty.
Well, do your best. And I'll tell you afterwards how you went on.
Let me put it this way. The Prince Simon will naturally assume that Her Royal Highness has the so customary as to be, in my own poor opinion, slightly monotonous. We'll have what one might call the inevitable, so inevitable as to be, in my opinion again, almost mechanical. We'll assume that she has, as I think of it, faultless, icily regular, splendidly...
What you are trying to say, in the fewest words possible, is that my daughter's not beautiful.
Her beauty is certainly elusive, Your Majesty.
It is. It has eluded you. It has eluded me. It has eluded everyone who's seen her. It even eluded the court painter. His last words were, "Well, I did my best." His predecessors now painting the water meadows on the west turf. His doctors advised him to keep to landscape.
It is unfortunate, Your Majesty, but there it is. One just cannot understand how it can have occurred.
You don't think she takes after me at all, do you? You don't detect the likeliness?
No, certainly not, Your Majesty.
Good. Your predecessor did.
I've often wondered what happened to my predecessor.
Well, now you know.
Looking at the bright side, although Her Royal Highness is not, strictly speaking, beautiful,
Not truthfully speaking, beautiful.
yet she has great beauty of character.
My dear Chancellor, we're not considering Her Majesty's character, but her chances of getting married. You observe that there's a distinction.
Yes, Your Majesty.
Look at it from a suitor's point of view. If a girl is beautiful, it is easy to assume that she has, tucked away inside her, an equally beautiful character. But it is impossible to assume that an unattractive girl, however elevated in character, has, tucked away inside her, an equally beautiful face. That is, so to speak, not where you want it tucked away. This doesn't, of course, alter the fact that Princess Camilla is quite the nicest person in the kingdom.
She is indeed, Your Majesty. With the exception, I need hardly say, of Your Majesty and Her Majesty.
Your subjects are tolerated for their loyalty, but condemned for their extreme fatuity.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
As an adjective for your king, the word nice is ill-chosen. As an adjective for Her Majesty, it is ill-chosen. So how are we?
Talking about Camilla?
As always, my dear, you're right.
This fellow Simon, what's he like?
Nobody has seen him, Your Majesty.
How old is he?
5 and 20, I understand.
Well, in 25 years he must have been seen by somebody.
Just a fleeting glimpse.
I meant, Your Majesty, that no detailed report of him has reached this country, save that he has the usual personal advantages and qualities expected of a prince, and to be traveling in distant and dangerous lands.
Nothing gone wrong with his eye? Sunstroke or anything?
Not that I am aware of, Your Majesty. At the same time, as entering the Senate, His Majesty, Her Royal Highness's character and disposition are so outstandingly...
Stuff and nonsense. You remember what happened at the Turn of Love last year?
I was not myself present, Your Majesty. I had not then the honor of... I was abroad and never heard the full story.
No, it was the other. They all rode up to Camilla to pay their homage. It was the first time they had seen her. The heralds blew their trumpets and announced that she would marry whichever prince was left master of the field, and all but one had been announced. The trumpets were blown again. They all charged enthusiastically into the fight and...
I'm sorry, my dear.
And what happened? They all simultaneously fell off their horses and assumed the posture of defeat.
One was not so quick as the others. I was very quick. I proclaimed him the victor.
At the feast of betrothal held that night,
We were all very quick.
the chancellor announced that by the laws of the country, the successful suitor had to pass a further test. He had to give a correct answer to a riddle.
Such undoubtedly is fact, Your Majesty.
As an adjective for your king, the word nice. Go on. There are times for pronouncing facts, and times for thinking of things in a broad-minded way. Please remember that, Chancellor.
Yes, Your Majesty.
Well, tell me about the riddle.
I invented the riddle myself. Quite an easy one. Which has 4 legs and barks like a dog? The answer is a dog.
You see that?
Yes, Your Majesty.
It isn't difficult.
Although he seemed to find it so. He said an eagle. Then he said a serpent, a very high mountain with slippery sides, a moonlight night, and the day after tomorrow.
Nobody could accuse him of not trying.
I did.
I should have said that nobody could fail to see in his attitude an appearance of doggedness.
Finally, he said death. I nudged the king.
Accepting the word nudge for a moment, I rubbed my ankle with one hand and clapped him on the shoulder with the other, congratulating him on the correct answer. He disappeared under the table, and frankly, I've never seen him again.
His body was found in the moat the next morning.
But what, Your Majesty, was he doing in the moat?
Bobbing about, trying to ask needless questions.
It all seems so strange.
What does?
But Her Royal Highness, alone of all princesses ones I've heard of, should lack that variable tribute to royalty, supreme beauty.
That was your Grand Malkin. She came to the christening. You know what she said?
It was cryptic. Great Aunt Malcolm's besetting weakness. She came to my christening, and she was 101 then, and that was 51 years ago. How old would that make her?
152, Your Majesty.
About that, yes. She promised me all the happiness which her wife deserved. It struck me at the time. Well, when I say at the time, I was only a week old. But this struck me when anything could strike me. Well, in that manner, well, work it out yourself, Chancellor. It opens up a most interesting field of speculation, which I don't like to go at all deeply with Her Majesty.
I never heard anything less cryptic. She was wishing you extreme happiness.
I don't think she was wishing me anything, however.
But what, Your Majesty, did she wish Her Royal Highness?
Her other godmother, on my side, promised her dazzling beauty for which all women in my family are famous.
Yes, Your Majesty.
And Grand Malkin said, what were those words?
I give you with this kiss a wedding day surprise. Where ignorance is bliss, 'tis folly to be wise. I thought the last 2 lines rather neat, but what it meant was,
We could all see what that meant. She was giving great beauty, and where is it? Grand Malkin took it away from her. The wedding day surprise is that there would never be a wedding day.
young men being as they are, my dear, would be surprised if there were a wedding day. So
Hello,
how?
darling. Oh, I say, afraid of state. Sorry.
Oh, don't go, Camilla.
Shall I withdraw, Your Majesty?
You overheard Camilla Prince Simon arrives today.
He has arrived. They're just letting down the drawbridge.
Arrived. I must go.
Darling, you know what the drawbridge is like. It takes at least a half hour to let it down.
It wants oil. Have you been grudging it oil?
It wants a new drawbridge, darling.
By Your Majesty's permission?
Yes, yes.
You told him, of course. It's the only chance.
No. I was just going to
Then
when...
I better. You can explain to the girl. I'll understand it to you. You've told Camilla.
No. I was just going
Then you
to...
better tell her now.
My dear, are you sure this...
It's the only chance left. Oh, my daughter.
Camilla, I want to talk to you seriously about marriage.
Yes, Father.
It's time to learn one of the great facts of life.
Yes, Father.
Now, the great fact about marriage is that once you're married, you live happily ever after. All of our history books affirm this.
And your own experience too, darling.
Let us confine ourselves to history for the moment.
Yes, Father.
Now, there may be an exception to the rule here and there that proves the rule that... Never mind.
Go on, darling. You were just about to say that an exception here and there proves the rule that all princesses are beautiful.
Well, leave that for the moment. The point is, it doesn't matter who you marry or how you marry, as long as you get married, because you'll be happy ever after in any case. Are you following me so far?
Yes, Father.
Well, your mother and I have a little plan.
Was that it, going out of the door just now?
Yes. It concerns your waiting maid.
Darling, I have several.
Only one that lives to the eye, so to speak. The one with, well, the one with everything.
Dulcibella.
That's the one. Now, it's our plan that at the first meeting, your maid Dulcibella should pass herself off as Princess Camilla. A harmless ruse, of which you find frequent record in the history books. And to lure Prince Simon to his, that is to say, bring him up to the, well, in other words, the wedding will take place immediately afterwards, and as quietly as possible. Well, naturally. In fact, the grand Aunt Malcolm is 152, and you'll no doubt be wearing the family bridal veil, which is probably how the custom arose. The surprise after the ceremony will be his. Are you following me so far? Your attention seems to be wandering.
I was wondering why you needed to tell me.
Just a precautionary measure, in case you happen to meet the prince before the ceremony. In which case, you'll pass yourself off as the maid Dulcibella.
A harmless ruse of which also you will find frequent record in the history books.
Exactly. But the occasion need not arise.
Majesty, the woman, Dulcibella.
Ah, now Camilla, if you just retire to own apartments, I'll come to you there when I'm ready for the actual ceremony. Come in, my dear. Now, don't be frightened. There's nothing to be frightened about. Has Her Majesty told you what you must do?
Yes, Your Majesty.
Well, let's see how you can do this. You're sitting here, we will say. Now, imagine that I am Prince Simon. You are the beautiful Princess Camilla, whom he has never seen. This is a serious moment. You'll find that giggle will not be helpful. I am announced. His Royal Highness Prince Simon. That's me being announced. Remember what I said about giggling? Now, you're sitting there, thinking beautiful thoughts and maiden meditation, fancy free. As I remember saying to somebody once, speaking of somebody else, fancy free. But with mouth definitely shut. That's better. I'll advance to call upon one knee. And you extend your hand graciously. Graciously. You're not trying to push him in the face. That's better. And so I take it, and I kiss it. No. Perhaps not that passionately. More like this. And then I say, Your Majesty, this is the most... no. Your Majesty, I shall ever be... No. Your Majesty, this is the proudest... Well, the point is, he'll say it. It'll be something complimentary. And then, he'll take your hand in both of his and press it to his heart. And then what do you say?
Go!
No. Not good.
Never had anyone do that to me before.
That also strikes the wrong note. What you want to say is,
Oh, Prince Simon!
now say it.
Oh, Prince Simon!
No. You don't need to shout it until he said what 2 or 3 times. Always consider the possibility that he isn't deaf. Softly, and give you the words of dying fall, letting them play around in his head like a flight of doves. Now try that.
Oh, Prince Simon!
Keep in mind a flight of doves, rather than a flight of panic-stricken elephants. Now, I'm going to get up, and you must, as it were, walk me to the seat by your side. No, not rescuing a drowning man. That's another idea altogether. Useful at times, but at the moment, inappropriate. Wafting. Prince Simon put the necessary muscles into play. All you are required to do is to indicate, by the gracious movement of the hand, the seat you require him to take. Now, that's better. Well, here we are. Now, I think you give me a look. Something, let us say, halfway between the breathless adoration of a nun and the voluptuous abandonment of the woman of the world, with an undertone of regal dignity, touched, as it were, with good comradeship. I'll try that. Frankly, I didn't quite get it. There's just something missing. An absence, as it were, of all the qualities I asked for, and in their place, an odd resemblance to an unsatisfied fish. Let's try to get at this another way. Dulcibella, have you a young man of your own?
Oh, yes, he's ever so smart, and he's an archer. Well, not to might say a real archer, but he works in the armory. An old bottlenose, you know my name, the captain of the guard says. Next man he ever has to shoot, my egg will take his place. And knowing father and how it is with egg meat, and me being made to her Royal Highness, and can't marry me until I was a real soldier, but ever so loving and fight. The things he says, I said to once, egg.
I rather fancy Dulcibella. If you think of egg at all times, say as little as possible. And when thinking of egg, see that mouth is no more than partially open. You'll do very well. Now, I'll show you where you are to wait for His Royal Highness. Now, remember, walk. Walk, not point.
Well,
Oh, hello.
should you?
Do sit down, won't you?
Who are you and how did you get here?
Well, that's rather a long story. But you may sit down. You could sit here if you like, but it isn't very comfortable.
That is the king's throne.
Oh, is that what it is?
Thrones aren't meant to be comfortable.
Well, I don't know if they're meant to be, but they certainly aren't.
Why were you sitting in the king's throne and who are you?
My name is Carlo.
Mine is Dulcibella.
Good. And now can we sit down?
You may sit here if you like. Why are you so tired?
I'm taking very strenuous exercise.
Is that part of the long story?
It is.
I love stories.
Well, this isn't really a story. You see, I'm attendant on Prince Simon, who is visiting here.
Oh, I'm attendant on Her Royal Highness.
Then you know what he's here for.
Yes.
She's very beautiful, I hear.
Did you hear that? Where have you been lately?
Traveling in distant lands with Prince Simon.
All the same, I don't understand. Is Prince Simon in the palace now? The drawbridge can't be down yet.
I don't suppose it is. And what a noise it makes coming down.
Isn't it terrible?
I couldn't stand it anymore. I just had to get away. That's why I'm here.
But how?
Well, there's only one way, isn't there? That beech tree, and then a swing, and a grab for the battlements. And don't ask me to remember it all.
You mean you crossed the moat by that beech tree?
Yes, I got so tired of hanging about.
But it's terribly dangerous.
That's why I'm so exhausted.
Well, of course it's different for me.
Say that again? I must have got it wrong.
Well, it's different for me because I'm used to it. Besides, I'm so much lighter.
You don't mean that you.
Oh yes, often.
And I thought I was a brave man. At least, I didn't until 5 minutes ago. And now I don't again.
Oh, but you are, and I think it's wonderful to do it straight up the first time.
Well, you did.
Oh no, not the first time, when I was a child.
You mean that you crashed?
Well, you only fall into the moat.
Only? Can you swim?
Of course.
So you swam to the castle walls and yelled for help, and they fished you out and walloped you, and the next day you came back and tried again? Well, that isn't pluck.
Of course I didn't. I swam back and did it once. Well, I mean, I tried it again once. It wasn't until the third time that I actually did it. You see, I was afraid I might lose my nerve.
Afraid she might lose her nerve.
There's a way from getting over from this side, too. A tree grows up from the wall, and you have to jump from that tree into a different tree, and I don't think it's quite so easy.
Not quite so easy. Good, you must show me.
Oh, I will.
Perhaps perhaps it might be as well if you taught me how to swim first. I've been swimming, but never...
You can't swim?
No, don't look so surprised. There are a lot of other things that I can't do. I shall tell you about them as soon as you have a couple of years to spare.
You can't swim, and yet you crossed the moat by that beech tree, and you're ever so much heavier than I am. Now who's brave?
You keep talking about how light you are. I must see if there's anything in it. Stand up. You're right, Dulcibella. I can hold you here forever. You're very lovely. Do you know how lovely you are?
Yes.
Why do you...
Aren't you tired of holding me?
Frankly, yes. I exaggerated when I said that I could hold you here forever. I promised for 10 minutes over a very deep moat, wondering if it's too late to learn how to swim. Well, what I meant was that I should like to hold you forever. Why did you laugh?
Well, it's a little private joke of mine.
If it comes to that, I've got a private joke too. Let's exchange them.
Mine's very private. Only one other woman in the whole world knows, and that's all.
Mine's just as private. One other man knows, and that's all.
What fun. I love secrets. Well, here's mine. When I was born, one of my godmothers promised that I should be very beautiful.
How right she was.
But the other one said this: I give you with this kiss a wedding day surprise, where ignorance is bliss, 'tis folly to be wise. And nobody knew what it meant. And I grew up very plain. And then, when I was about 10, I met my godmother in the forest one day. It was my 10th birthday. Nobody knows this except you.
Except us.
Except us. And she told me what her gift meant. It meant that I was beautiful, but that everyone else was to go on being ignorant and thinking me plain until my wedding day. Because she said she didn't want me to grow up spoiled and willful and vain, as I should have done if everyone had always been telling me how beautiful I was. And the best thing in the world, she said, was to be quite sure of yourself, but not to expect admiration from other people. So ever since then, my mirror's been telling me I'm beautiful, and everyone else thinks me ugly, and I get a lot of fun out of it.
Well, seeing that Dulcibella is the result, I can only say that your godmother was very, very wise.
Now tell me your secret.
It isn't such a pretty one. You see, Prince Simon was going to woo Princess Camilla, and he heard that she was beautiful, haughty, and imperious. All you would have been if your godmother hadn't been so wise. And being a very ordinary-looking fellow himself, he was afraid that she wouldn't think much of him. So he suggested to one of his attendants, a man called Carlo, of extremely attractive appearance, that he should pretend to be the prince, win the princess's hand, and at the last moment they would change places.
But how would they do that?
Well, the prince was going to be married in full armor, with his visor down.
Oh, what fun.
Neat, isn't it?
Oh, very, very, very.
Neat, but not so terribly funny. Why do you keep laughing?
That's another secret.
When it comes to that, I've got another one up my sleeve. Shall we exchange again?
All right, you go first this time.
Very well. I'm not Carlo. I am Simon. Ow!
What is it?
Cramp. I was saying that I was Prince Simon.
Shall I rub it for you?
I am Simon.
Is that better?
I am Simon.
I know.
How did you know?
Well, you told me.
But are you to the swoon or something?
Why? History records many similar ruses.
Is that so? I never read history. I thought I was being profoundly original.
Oh, no. Now I'll tell you my secret. For reasons much like your own, the Princess Camilla feared to meet Prince Simon. Is the drawbridge down yet?
Do your people give a faint, surprised cheer every time it gets down?
Naturally.
Then it came down about 3 minutes ago.
Ah, then at this very moment, your man Carlo is declaring his passionate love for my maid Dulcibella. That I think is funny. Dulcibella, by the way, is in love with a man she calls Egg, so I hope Carlo isn't getting too carried away.
Carlo is married to a girl he calls the Little Woman, so Egg has nothing to fear.
By the way, I don't know if you've heard, but I said, or as good as said, that I am the Princess Camilla.
I wasn't surprised. History, of which I read a great deal, records many similar reasons.
Simon.
Camilla. Sweetheart.
You see, when you lifted me up before, you said, "You're very lovely." And my godmother said that the first person to whom I would seem lovely would be the man that I should marry. So I knew then that you were Simon and that I should marry you.
I knew directly I saw you that I should marry you, even if you were Dulcibella. By the way, which of you am I marrying?
When she lifts her veil, it will be Camilla. Until then, it will be Dulcibella.
And goodbye, Camilla, until you lift your veil.
Goodbye, Simon, until you raise your visor.
Chancellor, what kind of flowers is the gardener planning on getting for my daughter's wedding?
Majesty, the gardener
what is this? More accurately, who and what are all these?
I'm Lieutenant Carlo, Your Majesty. He will, with Your Majesty's permission, prepare me for the ceremony.
Ah, of course.
Your maid Dulcibella is not my love. I thought so. She would prepare her royal highness.
Ah, yes, yes. Most important.
I beg pardon, Your Majesty, if I've done wrong, but I found a gentleman wandering.
Quite all right, my dear. Quite right. We pulled it off. Proceed, Your Excellency.
I bow Your Majesty's authority for the final test of His Royal Highness.
Is it safe?
Perfectly, my dear. I told him the answer a minute ago. Don't forget, dog. Proceed, Your Excellency. It is my desire that the affairs of our country should be conducted in a very constitutional way.
By the Constitution of the country, a suitor to Her Royal Highness's hand cannot be deemed successful until he has given the correct answer to a riddle. The last suitor answered incorrectly and thus failed to win his bride.
By coincidence, he fell into a moat.
I have now to ask Your Royal Highness if you are prepared for this ordeal.
Absolutely.
I may mention as a matter possibly of some slight historical interest that by the Constitution of the country, the same riddle may not be asked on two successive occasions.
What's that?
This one, it is interesting to recall, was propounded exactly a century ago. We must take it as a fortunate element, though as well and truly solved.
I may have my sword directly.
The riddle is this. What is it which has 4 legs and mews like a cat?
A dog.
According to the occasions which I referred, the correct answer would seem to be
Say something quick.
not dog,
Your
but
Majesty, have I permission to speak? Naturally, His Royal Highness could not think of justifying himself on such an occasion, but I think that with Your Majesty's gracious permission, I could...
Of course, of course.
In our country, we have an animal to which we have given the name dog, or in the local dialect of the more mountainous districts, doggy. It sits by the fireside and purrs.
That's right. Purrs like anything.
And when it needs milk, which is its staple food, it mews.
Mews like nobody's business.
In some countries, I understand this animal is called a cat. In one distant country to which His Royal Highness and I have penetrated, it was known by the very curious name of hippopotamus.
That's right. Do you remember that ginger-colored hippopotamus was used to climb on my shoulder and lick my ear?
I should never forget. So you see, Your Majesty.
Thank you. I think that makes it perfectly clear. You are about to agree.
undoubtedly, Your Majesty. May I be the first to congratulate His Royal Highness on solving the riddle so accurately?
You may be the first to see that all is in order for immediate wedding.
Thank you, Your Majesty.
Doubtless, Prince Simon, you wish to retire to an apartment and prepare for the ceremony.
Thank you, sir.
Have I Your Majesty's permission to attend His Royal Highness? It is the custom of this country for princes of the royal blood to be married in full armor, a matter which requires a certain adjustment.
Of course, of course. Young man, you have acquired a quickness which I admire. It is my desire to reward you in any way which commends itself to you.
Your Majesty is ever gracious. May I ask for my reward after the ceremony?
Of course. Well, young woman, make yourself scarce. And you did an excellent job. Well, I'll see that you and your... what was his name?
Egg, Your Majesty.
That you and your egg are not forgotten.
Wait for me, Dulcibella.
Well, my dear, we may congratulate ourselves. As I remember saying to somebody once, you've not lost a daughter, you've gained a son. How does he strike you?
Stupid.
They make a handsome pair, he and Dulcibella.
Both stupid.
I'm not saying anything about stupidity. All I'm saying is that they're both very handsome. That is the important thing. Or is it?
What do you think of Prince Simon, Camilla?
I adore him. We shall be so happy together.
Exactly. Like I said, happy ever after.
Run along now and get ready.
Yes, Mother.
My dear, have you been wrong about Camilla all this time? It seems to me she wasn't looking quite so plain just now. Did you notice anything?
Just the excitement of the marriage.
Ah, yes. That would account for it.
Trevor needs to come up. Trevor was the director of this show. He did a great job with it. Well, thank you. Ignore them.